God, your heart is strong and young. 40 liters! Whenever I see something like that, I feel so gosh darn thin. 40 liters of me is water, at least. Okay? I'm skinny underneath the water. Alright? So we've got a lot of water. And I know that you know the difference between intracellular versus extracellular. Intracellular is inside the cell, right? Extracellular is out. So if you have 40 liters of water, most of your water is inside your cells, intracellular. Okay? And then an extracellular fluid would be the other whatever percent, okay? But most of our, 40% of my body weight, let's just say, if I just weighed 100 pounds, when I was 10, if I weighed 100 pounds, 40% of my body weight, so 40 pounds would be water, and only 60 pounds would be the rest of me. That's all I have to say, I'm so thin. Anyway, so an extracellular fluid, right? That's anything outside of the cells. Interstitial fluid is what we call the fluid that bathes cells. But also we've got plasma, right? Inside blood vessels, that's water. And what this picture is not including would be the lymph, cerebral spinal fluid. This is all fluid that's outside of your cells, right? All of this would be in the extracellular compartment. One of the things to remember, and I know that you guys know this, but maybe you forget until I remind you, there's always exchange between these compartments, right? Water moves from the plasma out into and bathes the cells, then into the cells, and back again. I mean, there's constant movement between these compartments, but most of the water is intracellular. You can see the greater than less than question right here, right? How much water intracellular, how much water extracellular? Yes, you should see it. All right, so what makes up our fluid? Of course, there are the solutes, things that are dissolved in it, electrolytes and non-electrolytes. We care about electrolytes a lot, especially sodium, potassium, and chloride, right? Because they affect, and calcium, because they affect excitable cells. Simple picture here, and nothing that you don't know already, but intracellular is yellow. Holy Toledo, what is the major thing that is intracellular? You know this. There's more potassium inside, more sodium outside, right? Tons of potassium inside and phosphate. And then extracellular, of course, you've got chloride, sodium and water. Nothing new here, right? Should have no trouble. Great. I mean, we really only stress sodium and potassium. And you know where the sodium goes, the chloride goes also. Now, this is just the same picture, I guess, just trying to remind us that there's always exchange between the different compartments, fluid exchange. And then what I like also about this picture, it's showing us the major organs that are responsible for movement of either solutes or water itself across these compartments. Of course, you think the GI tract, the movement of water, right? You think the kidneys, the movement of water. But then we also have the lungs moving oxygen and CO2, nutrients like glucose and such in the GI tract, and then various waste or whatever, even electrolytes with the renal system, Right? That's not such a big thing. All right, so how do we regulate this water intake? There are osmoreceptors. We've talked about those before. They're in the hypothalamus. They're going to sense changes in osmolarity. Not only are they going to cause the secretion of ADH, but they're also going to cause thirst. And when we think about this, this is a great picture. On the average, you take in 2 to 2.5 liters of water a day. Don't make a dumb mistake. Most of the water you take in is through drinking. There aren't trick questions. That's what people say, like, oh, I thought it was a trick. No. Most of the water you take in is from drinking, then your food, and then some from metabolism. And then how do we get rid of most of the water? Because input should equal output. I know. Most through urine. Then we have some, we'll talk about this, insensible water loss. Did we yet? No. Insensible water loss, sweat, and then fecal material. I remember one year I gave this question. Most of the water is lost from the body via. And all I wanted it to be was urine, as or the kidneys, rather, was the answer. But it was It was a test on the respiratory system and the urinary system. You know, it was a combo test, and it was to my respiratory therapy students, and most people picked lungs. It was all about them that semester. Like, I was like, are you guys kidding me that you wouldn't pick urine? Like, we thought it was like some trick. There's no trick. It's urine. Anyway, don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Here I am, in younger days. I don't know why it's so funny. I'm tight with Elaine Merrill. She used pictures when we, used to go hiking. And so here you have high osmolarity. The osmoreceptors sense that. That causes an increase in thirst. It also causes water absorption. And of course, another showing ADH now. Usually that will also have low blood volume. Baroreceptors are going to cause increased renin. That's why this chapter is easy. It's a summary of what we've done before. This was in Maine. It was in Maine. Same exact thing. This is showing the high osmolarity, and then the secretion of ADH, water reabsorption, and how that lowers your urine output, but will decrease the osmolarity. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you, Timothy. This picture is ridiculous. That's all I've got to say. I mean, look at it, okay? Look at it and then walk away. So we have already mentioned obligatory water loss, and you guys told me it was about 500, right, cc's, 500 milliliters of water that's lost per day in urine output to remove your waste products. So that's your obligatory water loss. You have to have it, even if you're dehydrated. And I already told you of osmolarity of about 300 in the extracellular space. 280 milliosmoles is due to sodium, the most important extracellular ion, right? Where the sodium goes, the water follows. So repetitive aldosterone regulates sodium levels. So if you have low extracellular sodium, it's going to cause an increase in aldosterone secretion from the adrenal glands, which will increase sodium and chloride reabsorption. Water will follow. Also, if you have a high osmolarity, so that would usually be high sodium, that's going to cause an increase in ADH, which will cause increase in water reabsorption. So this is just a review of these hormones that we've talked about before. So here, the same thing, low sodium, aldosterone. But this is something that we mentioned before, last time we were together. High extracellular potassium is an indication of cellular injury. High extracellular potassium is the #1, actually, stimulus for aldosterone. Or I think I should say it the other way around. Potassium levels are regulated primarily by aldosterone. That's better way to say it. There it is, putting it all together. I don't feel like I have to go over this. We've just done it so much, okay? Well, I just wanted to mention sex hormones, though, if I can. Always mention sex. But the sex hormones, again, they're estrogen, progesterone. They're all coming from cholesterol, right? They all come from the same precursor, because they're steroid hormones, but they can have effects just like glucocorticoids, and so as a result, they can cause bloating. So some people think that bloating that happens certain times in a female cycle is in their head, but it's not really. It can be because these hormones are so similar in their structure. Aldosterone causes you to reabsorb sodium and chloride, and water follows. And if your estrogen and progesterone look like that, they can also cause that. Any problems with the video thing?
My phone's low on battery.
Oh, but you should plug it in. With Chris's
It hasn't
father.
worked in the past.
Okay, well, it'll work today, because today's a good day. Gotta love it. Gotta love Dr. Mastrangelo lack of technology. We cannot support this any longer. It's not working?
Nowadays, I'm just ruining your video.
You gotta lighten up. These videos are extra. You get what you get, sister. Okay. Regulation of potassium. Again, the major hormone is aldosterone. I hope that's a test question, and damn it, I hope you get it right. Is it charging?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll find out in 4 minutes.
What's added in this chapter is calcium and phosphate. Okay, so we talk about this. The major hormone that regulates blood calcium levels is parathyroid hormone. Okay, we talk a little bit more about it when we hit the endocrine chapter. But the parathyroid glands are embedded within the thyroid glands. When someone has a thyroidectomy, they try to actually keep the parathyroid glands intact. And so when you have low blood calcium levels, this stimulates the parathyroid glands to secrete parathyroid hormone, and then that is going to help increase and raise blood calcium levels. It works in a couple of ways. One way is that parathyroid hormone increases osteoclast activity, and osteoclasts break down bone, and if you're breaking down bone, you're going to increase extracellular calcium from the bone. Also, parathyroid hormone increases vitamin D production, which helps absorb calcium in the small intestine. And this is what's important to us in this chapter, is that parathyroid hormone increases calcium reabsorption back from the kidneys. So there's more reabsorption. Now, you know, if you remember what makes up bone, it's that hydroxyapatite, right? It's a combination of calcium and phosphate together. So we only really need to increase blood calcium levels, because that's the stimulus here. And when the bone is broken down, this phosphate is unnecessary. You don't need to raise extracellular phosphate. So one of the things that parathyroid hormone does is increase phosphate excretion by the kidneys. Okay? All right, this is a great place to stop the video and start again, because we're going to do acid base.